Hello and welcome to Blocs Master. My name is Elder and today I'm going to teach you how to build the timeline. And this is not a block or brick. This is kind of the whole process of how to create something like this. And this is the freedom template, which is one of the ways you can build it. Because to be honest, there are many ways you can build something like that. I think I have it in one of my other templates, for example, resume. So if we go to resume and open this template in blocks, I think I have something similar there, a little bit different design, but as you can see, quite similar timeline. So by the end of this video, you will be able to create something like this from scratch in any of your projects. So let me create a new project here, timeline. We will be using Bootstrap 5, but it is absolutely the same for Bootstrap 4. So if your project uses Bootstrap 4, that's fine. As always, I will put together a very simple header and footer, so we have some kind of design to work this. And I will put here the header. So we know that this is the custom timeline block, whatever, page. Let's give this some color, and below we will build our timeline. And basically the whole process is creating one section of the timeline in one row and then duplicating it many times. Well, as many times as we need to have in our timeline. And usually, well, if we take a look at this, we have three elements. We have date, we have line, this is some separator, and we have the actual content, image, this text, or you can place wherever you want there. So in addition to that, we can also, for example, have date on top here, or we can align it completely different. We can just have two columns instead of three. So for example, we can have something like this. We can have line on one side and then content on another side. We can experiment how we want, but the traditional one, I would believe, will be three columns. There's line in between and one date on one side, element or image or text on another side. So let me show you how to do something like that. Okay, so the big part of building a timeline is, of course, making sure it is working fine on all breakpoints. And we need to decide how we want our timeline to look on different breakpoints. And I think that in my freedom template, I completely hide the line, but I completely hid it right away from this breakpoint using these visibility settings. But this time I want to keep it maybe on one side only, and maybe move the text, this date, on top of the content. I know it maybe does not make any sense right now, but you will get, and you will understand while we do everything together in this video. So for the line, I will set it, the width of the column, to 1, and I'm doing it in XS breakpoint because I want this to apply to all other breakpoints. As you can see, we have 1. And the reason why I'm doing that and I'm not touching these breakpoints is because I want to have the maximum width for these two columns. Because if I set it to 2, it will also be kind of centered, but this way as you know, we have 12 in the total. This way we will have only 5, 5, and 2 in the middle. But if we set it to 1, as you can see, it will actually occupy the center, and these two will be 5.5. So they will not be exactly 6, which is what I want for this timeline. But of course, you can set it to 2 or whatever you want. Okay, so first of all, let's create some kind of line here and put some kind of element in the center or maybe on top, so we have a separation. So there are many ways to do that. Once again, we can use divider because now it allows us to have the width and height and color we want. But I prefer to use div container because I actually want to place something inside it. So in this case, I want to place, well, I will place a paragraph text and We can place some of these bullet in stars, the Unicode elements, symbols we have on all devices, universal elements, and of course we can add the icon there, we can add some image there, whatever you want. I used, I think, these black dots. We can use some more fancy ones, for example, this one, or, well, we can use square, we can use, for example, this one to point to one direction or another. But honestly, well, I think that for this video, I will just stick to the bullet point, whatever you call this, dot, I guess. And of course, we will make this bigger, so it is a little bit more visible, something like that, maybe 3. I will align it to the center, and that's pretty much it. But of course, we need the line as well. So I will select the div container, and I will add the class. I will call this custom line. And from here, what I will do, I will set the width I want to have, for example, 5 pixels. I will make this dark. Well, it's not the typography, of course, it is background. So we need to go to this tab and make this dark like this. We can use obviously any color you want. We can use gradients if you want, but for me, simple is the answer. So I will put it like this, and I will align this to the center of this column by adding the margin auto to both sides. And right now, obviously it's not what we want, because we want this dot to be in the center of this line, right? In the middle. To do that, all we need to do is go to the flex tab and align this to the center. Of course, we need to enable flex for this to work. And we can put it on top like it is right now, or we can put it in the middle of this line. And of course, we didn't set the height, so let's set the height. I usually go for 100, but of course we can set exactly the height we want to some amount of pixels. Let's try, for example, 500 pixels. As you can see, we have exactly the height we want, but I prefer to use 100%, and I will explain in a second why. Basically, I want it to be responsive, and sometimes we have a lot of text, sometimes we have not a lot of text, a small amount of text, and I want this line to be different depending on the amount of content we have here. So I think something like that, and well, like I said, we can have it on top, in the middle, in the bottom. It's up to you. So I will keep it, well, for now, let's keep it on the top to show you how we can enable all of the other design elements here. And because this is paragraph, it has some margin enabled by default, which we can't see, but I will delete it here. Now, from one side, I will have date, and on another side, I will have some content, exactly like I have it in Freedom template. So, well, like I said, we can leave this empty, or we can delete it completely and have only content on one side or another. That's up to you, but I will show you what I've done in my template. So let's add the header here, and I will align this to the right, and let's type some kind of date. So October 2022. We can see it's not aligned perfectly yet, but we will get to this later. And on this side, we will have some text and header, maybe a little bit less text, and maybe something like that. So the goal here is to create the perfect section, fully optimized for all devices, for all breakpoints, all 4 breakpoints, and it should be, of course, well, have everything you want to have there, so we can duplicate the complete section. So it's not obviously complete yet, so we can add image like I've done in my template to have it a little bit more interesting, something like this. Let's actually add some image to this project. This is the images from one of my templates, the recent template. I think it's out by the time this video goes out. So let's have it like this, maybe a little bit too much padding. Yeah, that's fine. So something like that. In my template, I used this, in Freedom template, I mean, I used this at the center, and I do think it will look better if it is in the center. But like I said, you can have it on top. And if you do that, you want this to align exactly to this bullets dot symbol. So they're kind of on one line, making it a little bit better looking, I believe. But like I said, I think that I prefer it to be aligned to the center. And we can easily do that using this one class we have created for line here. So I think this looks fine, but if we duplicate it, you will see that they're too close to each other, first of all, and there are not enough space between the elements as well. So what I want to do, I will select this column and add this content column class. You can name it whatever you want. It's not some kind of class there. And I will add padding on both top and bottom. It can be 100 pixels, 500 pixels, like 50 pixels. It's up to you. Well, maybe let's make it 80, something like that. And this way, when we duplicate it, you can see we have more space between the elements, which is much better design for us. Now, we are getting somewhere on the LG breakpoint, but we of course need to take a look at other breakpoints, how it looks there. And honestly, for all of this LG, MD, and SM, this is pretty good, I believe, right away. But the problem is, of course, SM breakpoint, XS breakpoint, sorry, the smallest one. And well, what we can do, we can, for example, hide this from mobile, the line, like I've done on my template, I believe, and I moved this on top of the column, the date. Or we can hide both of them and have just section by section, which I think is also quite possible solution. Or what I will do now, I believe I will just leave this line, and if I hide the first column, this line will start from the left. You can see it here, it will start from the left, and this is exactly what I want. And I guess I would prefer to have that title here as well, and there are many ways we can do that, but the simplest one will be by adding this title. Well, I can actually just duplicate this and add it on top of this image like that. But I will hide this H2 brick, you can see it here. I will hide it on all breakpoints except the mobile. So now you will see we have this date. This is the regular date on LG breakpoint, on MG breakpoint, on SM breakpoint, but when we get to the smallest one, you can see we get the date here and the one on the left disappeared like that. So I think it's quite cool, and this is the design I want to have for this particular timeline. I think I didn't do something like this in my Freedom template, so this is even better than what I have in my template. Okay, when we build design, of course, we can have, for example, date on one side, element on another side, like you can see here, but many timelines, including mine, have the content on one side, and the next section has content on another side. And to do that, it's pretty simple. We just change the order of these elements like this. Of course, we want to align the text the way we want. So it is right here. As for this text, well, if we want, we can align it to the right, but I don't believe it's good to read from right to left if you're from Europe, States, or basically, except from Arabic language, I don't think that's good to change the text to make it like this. It doesn't really look very good. Okay, I will keep this like that and only align this text to be close to this button. I call this button, but bullet, I guess, star, dot, whatever. Okay, so we're getting somewhere already, but for now we don't have any animations, and who doesn't like animations? Let's put some animations, and I will have two of them. Of course, we can build one and then add all of the animations and then duplicate it, but I will just build two of them because I might want to have these scrolling effects from different sides. For the top one, I wanted to scroll from the left to right. For the bottom one, I wanted to scroll from right to left. And I can also make fade in, I believe. It will be cool. And this one is obviously it's up to you. You can experiment, make it wherever you want. I usually will do something like that. Maybe make it even bigger like this. We are using scroll effects here now, but you can also use the regular animation. It will work exactly the same, but only once. Scroll effects are a little bit more advanced because they allow you to change it on scroll, so you can make it bigger when you scroll or smaller when you scroll back. So something like that. So let's do that this way and let's see how it looks now. Well, this effect, I'm not sure I want this to get bigger on scroll. Just fade in and maybe scroll from the bottom will look fine. Or maybe even without scroll, it should be fine. I think for images, I don't want it to be jumping around too much. So just fade in effect will be fine. Yeah, I think this is clean and cool. Don't use animations too much because it will make your designs look amateur. Okay, another animation we can add here is to this bullet. We can make this, for example, scroll from bottom to top, and we can make this continuous. And by doing that, let's actually do that to the both of them. We will make this even more dynamic. Let's take a look. You can see that the button in the center, this bullet in the center, moves as we scroll, which makes this cool. But we can also, for example, move this line as well. And I guess we can maybe move it from top to bottom. And if we do that, let's try this one first. I'm not sure it will work. Yeah, it looks cool. Obviously, we are not 100% ready yet, so let's add the same animation to both of them. And if we do this, as you can see, we need to kind of integrate this line into our design. So in this case, it means that we will probably need to have the black header or some image there and white text. We will also get rid of the padding, so it kind of flies like that. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, I think this is much better. And as you can see, because it moves, but you can see it kind of disengages here. It's not very good. And this is because I believe we have set it to continuous scroll, but we will only make it scroll from the top to bottom because we don't want it to move away, creating this not very beautiful disengagement here. Right now it's much better. You can see that they're moving again, and this is a very cool effect. You can see they start quite close to each other, but then one bullet goes further away from this one and creates this cool effect. So I think that we are getting pretty close to what we want to have, but of course one thing we need to keep in mind here, because we have this alternative kind of left, right, right, left columns here, we need to optimize it better for mobile, because it will look great on all breakpoints, but when we go to the access breakpoint, the line is not on the right side, well, not on the left side in this case. And you can see obviously it doesn't look very good. If it is the design you want, that's perfect, but we want something different, and we will be utilizing the order settings for column to make sure that this line appears on the left. So we will take our content here and move it to the right like this. And of course we need to make sure that it is only for the smallest breakpoint, because we don't want it to be on all breakpoints this way. So here we want to have this line in the center. So let's take a look at this and maybe move it here and move it here. So we don't want to have anything. We want it to be exactly the same as all other breakpoints, but for the last one we want this line to be on the left. And obviously the text we have here for the date, it is, and this is this one, for the date it is invisible on mobile. So this way I believe it will work exactly how we want. Yeah, as you can see, it looks great. So this is just one way to create the timeline. There are of course many other ways, but once you have two of these columns ready for left and right content, we will just duplicate it and create a little bit longer. Of course, it depends on how many columns you want to have, how many sections of the timeline you want to have. And once you're ready, yeah, I think this looks fine. Of course, I mean, I was doing everything on the fly, these animations. You can also make sure that this button, this bullet is not visible by default. You can make sure it is maybe small and getting bigger using this one. Not sure if it will look good. Yeah, why not? Because we don't see anything almost on the first scroll. You can see that by making it bigger, it actually looks quite cool. So I will select this and make it bigger, all of them. There is one thing I want to change yet, and maybe you already have an idea what I want to change. It is the first section. I don't want it to be animated almost at all, because I don't like this. Well, especially image. I don't want this image to be animated. So I will disable the fade in for the first section, because, well, I want for people to see something when they open the page. So I will actually delete this as well. And for the content, I believe it was visible a little bit. Yeah, well, for the content, I think we can make it animated, or just delete animation from here as well. So the first section is not animated at all. So when people open this page, right away you can see the first one. And of course, this also applies to this bullet. So when they open the page, they can see right away the first entry. Okay, so this one we can also disable something. Oh, I think this is because the line is also moving, but that's okay. So I think first one should be visible, and then second one, we get all of the animations and everything we wanted. Yeah, I think this looks cool. And of course, let's once again test how this looks on all other breakpoints. Yeah, it looks great. I think it looks great and fully animated design, exactly what we wanted to have. So like I said, this is just one of the possible designs, and you can experiment with this element, for example. Instead of the bullet, you can put, well, obviously not that, something solid will look better here, but you can put something like that, or you can put the icon there instead of the text. Right now I'm using the text, but you can put the icon there too, or, well, whatever you want. It's up to you, and you can create the design you want. If you want to put icon, just inside this div container, delete the text you had there and add the icon. I'm not going to do that for this video exactly, but, well, you can see that I almost already did this. As you can see, you can put any type of element there, whatever you want. But of course it should look great, and it should look kind of uniform. This is the design you choose, but that's pretty simple. So yeah, this is how you do that. That's it for this masterclass. Next week I will continue these other parts of the freedom template and some other questions. I get more and more requests for this new series of tutorials, and yeah, I enjoy making this because I'm not kind of limited to the amount of time, because I don't want to put the too long tutorials on YouTube, and I want to make this kind of extra bonus to people who support my work via subscribing to my subscription or getting the templates and courses, all the packages, because really you're the reason why I'm doing this, and I want to provide as much value as I can to help you master your web design skills with Blocs. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, as always, you can all leave them in the comments. I believe there will be comments in Podia, or you can send them to me at support@blocksmaster.com, and I will talk to you next week. Goodbye.